going to record this, so everybody knows it. You've been warned. Ooh. Thank you. I'm sorry, Stefan, please go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. And I wanted to confirm with you, this is the last members meeting / conversation we are having before the adoption of the bylaws, correct?
This is the third meeting before the special membership meeting period ends, which is Friday at noon. Yeah. And then if it passes, then it'll be adopted.
Thank you for precising that to everybody. So yeah, so and correct me if I'm wrong, but the intention of that meeting is for people to ask question or bring any concern or a question about the new bylaws and the implementation and the changes and consequences of those new bylaws that they will have on the membership, on the functioning of the association, etc.
Correct. And I'm putting a link in the chat to where the bylaws are, the proposal are located, in case anybody has any questions or wants to look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, they're in there now. And several of you have already attended some of these meetings before, so you may have had questions before, may have new questions, and that's great too. Please just turn on your megaphone when you ask questions, so the entire room can hear the question.
Or if you are shy, you can ask your question in the chat and we will answer it.
Correct.
Or if your mic doesn't work, whatever, not just because you're shy. We accept any type of medium to communicate with us. All right, and we have a few questions about our background booth. Okay,
that's
sure.
Before. That's some way before, because the room doesn't clear unless we mainly go in and clear.
Okay.
That's from the networking event we did at the beginning of the month. I posted the first one today.
All right. A wild Jeff has appeared in his natural habitat.
And I've moved you to host Jeff in case you wish to use a megaphone.
All right. So, anybody has any question? Okay, John, apparently you did a good job because nobody has any questions, so it's pretty clear, and the members are seeing and understanding what we're trying to do, I guess.
Excellent.
Who has a funny story?
Yeah, that's going to be a short meeting.
Well, I actually did have a question. Sorry, it's new.
There you go.
I was sneaking away making lunch.
Mega fun, Tiffany.
Yeah, so recently there has been an uptick in online abuse and harassment within the board game industry, specifically targeting certain publishers or content creators or whoever. And there are some people who have encouraged, we'll say, some of this abusive behavior. And legally, it falls into the online bullying, and there's certain things, and different lawyers have been involved in all this other stuff. But I'm wondering how this will be taken into consideration in regards to opening up GAMA's membership options. Because it's one of those things, like, if we open up membership opportunities, what is the review process? And then I know there's now a code of conduct. The recent TSR situation, I know, was brought up in regard to the code of conduct and new members potentially. But yeah, I was looking for a bigger conversation on that.
Okay, John, do you want to take this one, or I take it?
You're welcome to take it if you like. I'll give you the potato.
So, okay, so yes, in the implementation of the new bylaws, we are also implementing a code of conduct regarding the memberships. the way it's going to work is there will be a committee that is running that code of conduct committee, and when a complaint is brought to the association, the code of conduct committee will review the complaint and check with the code of conduct that we have written that the members are agreeing to abide with. And if the behavior is a clear violation of the code of conduct that the member have been agreeing to abide with, then there will be substantiation for termination, or termination is ultimate, but warning, suspension, whatever. The committee will decide the degree of reaction that the infraction of the code of conduct is generating. But until the new bylaws are in place, that code of conduct committee and the code of conduct are not yet implemented.
So I guess a bigger question spinning off that, the TSR announcement that GAMA officially made earlier this week in regards to TSR members, the new TSR, I want to make it clear I'm not talking about the old one. The fact that they denied membership openly, made a public statement against that is, to my knowledge, those people weren't already members. So I guess I'm wondering what is not the reactive thing that will happen, but what is the proactive thing that will happen? As we've seen, GAMA already made a proactive announcement regarding a certain problem member, but I'm wondering if they're going to be making more of those moving forward against people who might be applying for membership who are already known harassers or violators of other codes of conducts.
If I may make a comment, Stefan. So under the new process, we're creating a new membership committee, which will have a representative from each of the 6 voting membership groups. And they'll be handling a lot of, somebody applies to become an association, new association, that goes to that committee for review. So there is a pre-review before people are approved into joining the association at the voting member level. At the community member level, they can join as a staff review. But that's a good question, so I'll make a notation to follow up about that. Secondly, under the code of conduct that Stefan mentioned, the code of conduct committee is currently in place. It's on a standing committee. It's an ad hoc committee the board created, as is the diversity and equity committee they created. Those 2 committees are working together on the new code of conduct, and so we'll have those out later this fall for all the members to look at before we do renewals for 22. So people will know what the code of conduct is before it's time to renew for next year.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I guess the other thing is the TSR announcement was a little, I mean, I appreciate it. It was good. It's just, it was a little odd. I guess from the GAMA, like, I was wondering why GAMA was making that announcement, unless TSR applied for membership, if like they aren't actively making stances like that on other issues already.
Sure, I can address that. That was actually done at the staff level. We were getting questions about where the company going to be welcome at joining at Origins specifically, and that was a question that was supposed to be responded. What was responded to, I should say. On that, we had the right to say who we want to have at our show. We have a show code of conduct. The behavior and some of the cosmetic were in violation of that code of conduct for that. But they have not applied for membership, and in fact, they hadn't applied to be at Origins either. We were being proactive on that.
Got it. Okay, so the statement was more made on behalf of Origins, not necessarily GAMA.
Correct, and I think there was some internal communications about that statement, and it went out probably a little broader than we probably would have done under final consideration. But that's fine. I mean, it is important that we take a stand on these kind of issues. But I think to your larger question for future events, and so if somebody has a concern, they would make a complaint to me or to the Code of Conduct Committee who would look at them. And there's a process in the bylaws for people appealing those decisions of myself and also the committee and the board. And so we're hoping with the new bylaws to put in place procedures so we can handle these more efficiently with due process for both parties.
Okay, and then I guess another question is, there was comment about violation of code of conduct, and if the committee does find that it is a violation, is removal permanent or temporarily? Is it a suspension?
There are both options in the new bylaws. So it is a graduated, it could be starting off with a warning, but if it's a particular egregious behavior, you can immediately remove them from the association.
Okay, and that removal would be permanent, like it would be logged or whatever, and there would
Correct.
be a list that people could go and see of who was essentially banned, yes?
I do not, I have to check with our legal counsel on about making that list public, because there are some, we have to make sure we're following
I guess I should say
association law.
public to members.
Yeah. Again, and I need to clarify that with our attorney, what we can and can't do under association law. We're incorporated in Illinois, so we have to follow what the Illinois law is on that. So we're still working with our legal counsel on that.
Okay.
And if I may add, I think some of the conversation we had when talking about that, the permanent banishment for the rest of the life of time, it's a pretty serious thing, and I think the whole intention of that code of conduct and the committee and all this is to educate and help people improve, and so there is room in the implementation of the sanction and things like that for giving an opportunity to the person who have been a subject of a sanction from the Code of Conduct Committee to show that their whatever the issue was corrected, or there are proactive change in behavior and things like that. And so I think this is personally that I think this is a better way to handle that. And granted, there are some infractions that are so egregious that finding a way to make it right or give a second chance might be difficult, but I think it's important to keep that in mind, if it makes sense.
I mean, of course, yes. I'm assuming if you're banned for good reason. Legal crimes or whatnot, the certain levels, yeah. Okay, cool. Just trying to go through my notes really quick.
And I would like to say one thing about that. We did put a process in place that if people want to appeal those decisions, there is a independent appeals committee which they would go through. The bylaws please say that members of the board of directors cannot sit on that appeals committee because you wanted to have a check and balance between the board and the membership. So I think that's a really positive thing that came out of the discussions we had around the bylaws and how we would do suspensions and expulsions.
So this is a very what if situation. So GAMA made a public announcement regarding, I'm just going to use this as an example because it's the most recent, the TSR situation. So if they were to apply for membership, would there be a similar potential of, like, you know what I mean? Like there's a denial of admission and then there's a removal of membership. So basically at what point can people appeal their denial of admission?
It would go to the membership committee first, would make a recommendation. If that committee made a recommendation not to admit them, and then go to the board of directors who would either affirm or return that decision. At that point, a person can then appeal to the appeals committee. So like going to the Supreme Court, you're going through the court processes that way.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I guess my biggest concern about all of this is there have been certain situations as of recent that have implications in regards to people's businesses and well-being. And so it's one of those where with opening up the membership, there's a potential where known, I'm just going to say online bullies because that's the more acceptable term, but it can be harsher than that, right? Could be added to as a member of GAMA in a function that's not like a, sorry, I'm hearing some feedback.
Sorry, it's me. I'm trying to mute.
But basically the concern is GAMA was originally formed and members were publishers and retailers who are people with business stakes, essentially, in the industry. There's money, sometimes millions of dollars. And so part of my concern is some of the membership levels that are being opened, I don't want to say commitment, but the risk factor of those new members is significantly lower than those where there are, livelihoods and salaries and, you know, employees and all that kind of at stake. So that's kind of my biggest concern with code of conducts, appeals processes, and that kind of stuff.
And Tiffany, do you think that those new potential members with less stake are less part of the industry? They are not as important and contributing to the industry?
Yes and no. I mean, I'm sure many of you know my background originally as a YouTube creator, content creator, and a freelance press person. And I would arguably say that when I had a full-time job working as something else, my salary and income was from a different job. And as a hobby, I went and made YouTube videos that made me no money whatsoever. It was just a side hobby. My commitment to this industry and my involvement with the industry was a little different than the role that I currently have. So my stake and my business's stake was different.
And I think this is the same case. Sorry, Jeff. I think that they will have the exact same situation with publisher. There are some publisher who this is not their main job. They are doing that as a side gig from their garage, and that the same consideration might be said for them, I think.
Yeah, and that's fine. But my concern is when libel stuff gets involved. It all gets kind of messy.
Jeff, you make sure you use the megaphone when you speak, please.
Oh, sure. Sorry. Am I on?
Yes.
Yes, you're on.
Go ahead, caller.
I will be the old guy trying to figure out how to use the technology. It is not necessarily obvious without a close reading of the proposed bylaws, but all of the new membership classes, except for the communicating members, specify that the members are businesses rather than individuals. And the way that you become a business obviously varies from state to state and jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but that seemed to be the most sensible way to make sure that GAMA's members were sort of serious, rather than there was discussion about, do we want to have members, and other associations do this, do we want to have members who qualify at a higher level because they have more revenue or whatever. And we ultimately, when we were discussing these bylaws, decided that that was not really appropriate for our industry. But we did give some thought to the idea of what constitutes a seat at the table. Who do we want to be a member? And that was the threshold that seemed to make sense and also be practical for what it's worth.
No, that was great. That actually was not obvious to me at all, that the people applying for membership had to be a business or part of a business. That was not clearly noted when I went through it. Thank you. Because yes, regardless of your business size, you are relevant. It was more my concern of certain potential people applying that aren't running businesses. Yeah.
Is there a question I'd like to share or ask?
I always feel like it's when I join these, I'm the only one that ever has questions.
Others have the same question, I'm sure. They're just waiting for you to ask them.
I mean, like I don't have any questions about the process. I'm always curious, like what concerns, anyone who has a concern, I would love to hear it, because I always, like, sometimes concerns come out after the fact and I'm always like, oh man, why didn't you say something? Well, we could still do something about that. So if there's anybody that's got a concern at the back of their mind or an idea that they don't know if it bears talking about, like I would encourage everyone to air all of that out now and talk around that stuff from different angles. Because it's not always obvious what we were thinking or things like that. So I guess that's my question is, does anyone have a concern? But hopefully it is obvious to everyone that that's what we're here for. Anyway, I want to encourage anybody who's got anything to say it.
I do have more questions, but they're about origins. So I'm going to hold right now on that until we move off topic.
Well, I guess if there is no more question about the bylaws, we can move to another topic.
Sure, happy to.
Cool. It was just more of the Origins has been sending out stuff that's really great. My warehouse manager is freaking out because she doesn't. I don't know when freight and whatnot is due, or if you all are working with Fern or not. I guess Fern, New York Toy Fair is no longer working with Fern, or maybe it was Astra. And so I guess have you all have any documentation or announcements in regards to what logistics companies you all be working with?
Yes, we are working with Fern.
Okay.
In fact, we're working on the exhibitor packet, hoping to get out the beginning of July. Is what we're working on right now.
Okay, cool.
That should be out probably next week or so, I think.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I figured when she heard that Astra dropped Fern, she was like, "Oh God, what if other people do?" So thank you. That will help me put her mind at ease. And then the other question that I had was, I know you all are probably definitely paying attention to the Delta variant and any other stuff going on with that fun thing. But I was wondering if, to your all's knowledge, do you know if any litigation is going through in Ohio that might affect mask enforcement or social distancing? For example, Virginia is banning masks, like the state of Virginia is banning masks after June 30th. So I'm just kind of wondering if there's any news on it.
I have not heard anything in the Ohio legislature who are actually getting ready to go on summer break, thankfully. That means we'll all be safe for another couple months. But I know like Los Angeles just reinstated the mask mandates because of the Delta variant. I saw that in the meeting news update that I get daily. We are still moving forward with masks requirement for Origins as well as social distancing. That is our safety plan, and we're moving forward with that. Currently, the commissioner does require masks as well for all events happening there. So that's like a double protection, I guess. But we're definitely moving forward with masks for our show.
Okay, fantastic. And then will there be some documentation in that exhibitor packet that you are putting together that specifies and helps kind of give at least potential minimum expectations in regards to social distancing and requirements for cleaning between guests and stuff?
Yeah, we've actually been talking to the convention center about that with what they're doing and what our responsibilities and what our exhibitor responsibilities are. That's we're all crystal clear on who's doing what in the convention center. So that will be part of that packet as well.
Okay, awesome. I guess my other concern with that regard is we're trying to figure out our demo games and also our giant games. And so I'm wondering if there's going to be any requirements between like cleaning surfaces between guests, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I assume that there would be, but I just want to, I want to know if there's anything above and beyond that I need to be doing or planning for.
We're actually leaving a lot of that up to the individual exhibitor to decide, especially for doing those demo games, because we've been getting some mixed conversations with different publishers about how they want to handle that. So we're going to be giving here's a recommended practice, but you're welcome to go above and beyond this if you like. It's kind of what we're doing.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. Yeah, because we're having to plan all of that now. So some framework of expectations would be nice, or at least recommended practices.
Absolutely. Yeah. The other thing, we're actually sending an email out later today to exhibitors, let them know that we're actually moving up the booth placement to July. We were originally planning to do it at near the end of August. But we've been hearing from exhibitors they want to do it sooner so they can do their artwork and like their booth numbers and promotions and all that. So we want to help them out and move it up to early. I think we're doing that July 19th. That's an email that we discussed this morning in our staff meeting. So that'll be going out a little later today. Any other questions about Origins or anything else? Happy to answer.
I mean, a billion, but these are my biggest ones, and this helps dramatically. Thank you so much.
Sure, T, happy to help.
Yeah, my warehouse manager, I tell you what, like every day, when are we shipping to Gen Con? When are we shipping to Origins? I'm like, I don't know, it's September, just wait.
Hey, I have a question about Origins.
Sure.
Do we have any idea how much of a virtual presence there will be for those of us who can't afford to leave our stores and go somewhere?
We are you asking about the trade day portion or the consumer portion of the show?
Yes.
Because I have answers for both. If that's what I want to know.
Yes, both.
Cool. So we are accepting events for the virtual part of the show. We've had a number of people who have submitted that. We've got, I think, currently a couple dozen exhibitors have already signed up for the online portion of the show. We're using a software called Eventany. That's the same software that the San Diego Comic Con uses for their online show, as well as Dragon Con. But we need to remind exhibitors that they get a complimentary booth by being in person. They can also put something online as well for that. So we're hoping once we get the information out to them about that number will go up. Trade Day is happening on Wednesday and Thursday of this year, 2 days. We're now currently working with Event Center on figuring out what part of that we can actually stream. So we want to get some of those retailer programs, hopefully live streaming. If not, they'll be recorded and put on our on-demand platform afterwards. So it's definitely in works. We're definitely looking at making this truly a hybrid show where there's in-person and online components that are kind of working together. And Adam, who's here, is kind of the lead person on that.
Okay, that's good because, like I said, some of us can't go. I mean, I'd have to shut down for the whole time, and that wouldn't work for me. So,
Sure. I
thanks.
understand. Okay, happy.
Okay.
Cool. All right, we're coming up on a half hour here, and I don't want to, I appreciate his time this afternoon, but I'm happy to stay as long as people want to ask questions. But I want to thank you all for coming out today. Molly popped in, of course. There she is.
I was gonna ask one question before y'all went.
Would you turn on your megaphone, please?
Do you have any sense?
Megaphone.
Sorry.
Cool.
Is it working now? Because I've never used it on my phone. Are we good?
Yes.
Cool. Do you have any sense of whether y'all are trying to meet a certain minimum of exhibitors for Origins? And if so, does GAMA want any support in just bringing in more publishers to exhibit there?
The answer is we need more exhibitors. We've got currently a little over 200 exhibitors so far. Yeah, so which is great. But we're also co-locating our show with a local game developer program called GDEX. They mostly do video games, but they've been getting into, so they're going to actually have 40 booths as well at our show. So we're looking at having about close to 250 exhibitors overall for the show. So, but if people are interested, we know we are definitely taking applications. We do have a waiting list currently for the space we have. But people want to come and part of the show, send them my or Chris's way. We're happy to talk to them.
Okay, cool. That was one. So it sounds like you don't need any. You're actually oversaturated. At Origins, I haven't. I'm going to be waitlisted. I haven't applied yet. At Origins, are there opportunities to do sort of some level of small scale marketing, primarily to to consumers versus to retailers?
Yes, we do have demo tables and that are basically just buy a table to set up and do some promotional activities. But we also have an app. We have a site book, coupon book, other like that. So there's smaller ticket sponsorship opportunities. If you want to talk about those, we can definitely see what you might be interested in doing.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Cool. And we are still looking for sponsors and people to be involved, publishers and distributors to be involved for the trade days. We currently have about a dozen so far. We'd like to get around 15 or 16 for that. So if you're interested in being part of that, please let me know as well.
My understanding for the trade day was to be a part of it as a publisher, you also had to sponsor.
Well, it's a $1,000 fee to be a sponsor for trade day, which is separate. You do not have to be an exhibitor to be a sponsor of trade day.
Well, but you have to do the $1,000 trade day sponsorship. Isn't there also a tie-in of product for the retailer box?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a bit more than 1,000. Okay.
It is, yes. And so, we were currently asking we're thinking we're going to have about 150 to 200 retailers at the show, not because how many items we'll need product-wise.
So I did have a question in regards to a conversation we had at the last networking meeting, John, in regards to the membership drive that you all were thinking about doing during July.
Yes.
Is there going to be an announcement soon on how that's going to go down and how people can help participate in helping bringing new members to the table?
Chris and I are still working the details out on that, so we're hoping to have that out early next week, which is July. Yay! But I did definitely made notes to follow up with you about the unboxing video you were planning on doing from the trade show box, as well as the FLSG locator that you had. We talked about that a little bit too. So I did notes to follow up with you early next week about that. So
Okay, cool.
does that still work for your schedule for next week to chat?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Hey, Jeff.
I think that it's worth noting that if the new bylaws go into effect, there are going to be new categories of membership that will spring into being with 0 members inside of them. And so Rick's point about outreach to new members, I think, will be especially relevant in the early days under the new bylaws, because we're going to want to put together sort of robust membership wings in the media and events group and in the service provider group and in the creator group as well. We all know tons of creators, obviously, but because members are businesses, it will probably involve a little more outreach than is necessary to make sure that we get all of those new groups kind of robustly staffed up. So I would encourage everybody to start thinking about the people, especially in those areas that you would want to see as members of GAMA. And as and if the bylaws pass in their current state, reach out to those folks right away and encourage them to join. Speaking for myself only, not on behalf of the board, I would love to see them all in GAMA. I don't know if there are other board members secretly hoping that none of them join. Probably no, but I'm not the boss of them.
Sorry, John, I didn't mean to cover your face with my emoticons.
That's fine.
What's the ROI on the trade day sponsorship? Do you know?
Obviously, that varies by the publisher. Like I said, we're hoping to have 150 and 200 retailers there for the premier presentations on Thursday. But obviously, it depends on how engaged you are with the retailers and what kind of offers you bring, that sort of thing. So it really varies by publisher.
Oh, I was just wondering if you had that information from previous shows, so we could kind of justify scale it for this year, which will be a very interesting year, I'm sure.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Well,
cool.
we don't, Tiffany, we don't really have the number because this is really the first time that the publisher are involved in the trade day in such a way, which is almost like a mini GAMA Expo. In previous year, the retail division was running the trade day, and so we were not really doing publisher presentation. Was that correct, John?
Well,
we did have some publisher presentations, but it wasn't very many.
I was going to say, yeah, there were publisher presentations because in 2018 there were the retail boxes.
True, that's true. Yeah. But I mean, we don't really have like element to compare.
Yeah, so like this.
But I agree with you. That's going to be an interesting year.
It is on many levels. It's definitely an interesting 21. It's yeah. I mean, we're 91 days out to Origin, so counting it all.
I personally, and again, I'm speaking only for my feelings, and bearing any catastrophic events, I think that we should have a good Origin, and even Gen Con is looking like it's shaping not too bad. But again, who knows what the COVID is going to evolve into.
Hey, Jules, how are you over there? I was going to ask you if you've heard anything about the opening the border between Canada and the United States.
So right now we're kind of on hold. It seems to be So it's not a question of the border opening; it's more of the quarantine and what comes back. Vaccination has been slower in Canada. I have call-in here from my staff. None of my team has received the second dose except for myself because I'm older than them. So that's like for us, that's the biggest challenge. Like everything's up in the air. Like, can I get my demo team there? Can I? So we've been just kind of like in limbo, waiting to see. I think for us here in Canada, we're just going to wait till 2022. It's just too risky. I've heard people be turned back at the border. It seems to be very, what they define as essential travel seems to be a little bit vague. So it's, even traveling from province to province here, it's a little messy. So, for us for this year, although we'd love to be there, I don't think we're going to be at Gen Con, and I don't think we're going to be at Origins just because of the unknown. Like if I book a booth and I can't send a team, I'm kind of, we'll be kind of screwed a little bit. So, yeah, I think for your international travelers, or international publishers, it'll be a little trickier than the American ones. Like we're going to do shows here in Canada, but yeah, other than that, it's kind of a wait and see for now. There's supposed to be an announcement in July, so but each province is doing phase by phase, so who knows? It's we're in a very different situation here.
Yeah.
I was just going to say as a retailer that you might have an opportunity to reach out to other retailers, at least in the Columbus area. And if you did get a booth, you might consider asking a retailer to manage for you.
Yeah.
One that's in the Ohio area.
Yeah.
So it could be a win-win. And then I'll step back.
No problem. Yeah, we're looking into that.
I know somebody will be there.
This is where you need to be.
Dave just volunteered to run your booth at the show.
They just did, yeah.
I know somebody that'll also be there. So.
But I
All right.
I think you guys are all lucky that you get to go. Like if we had the green light, I'd be at Gen Con and I'd be at Origins. But it is what it is. And for us, even Essen is as a travel is still on the fence. So we'll see.
Yeah, we are definitely fortunate in the USA. We should be grateful for that. Yeah.
So I have one question. Are you guys like in Canada? They're talking about if you want to attend major events, they're asking for a vaccination passport. Is that something that the U.S. is going to be requiring, or is that something like you guys are going to be asking at Origins? Or
we're not asking at Origins.
Okay.
But I know that there's certain other events and cities that have been asking for it. But I haven't seen any effort really in Ohio to embrace that technology. Okay. Unfortunately, so yeah.
And there are some talk at the national level about a digital passport and a non-digital one, but then there is so much controversy around it, and so I don't know it's going to happen. As a company, Yellow is requiring all our demo person, because they are contractor, to prove that they have been vaccinated. It's legal because that's a requirement of the job description. So they are not employee. So
well, in Canada, it's going to become they're going to they're debating it now whether they're going to require it that you're double vaxxed to go back to the office, even in a regular workplace. So yeah, the way they're adapting the laws here in Canada versus the U.S. is very, very different.
But that being said, for everybody who is going to be attending and have people either working or volunteering or whatever for them, that is something that we've been also having conversations with because of workman's comp liability laws. That if you say no, you don't saying no, you don't have to is opening yourself also up to being liable for hospital bills. So it's good business practice along with being, more globally conscientious.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a weird spatial track question. Sometimes I see chats that pop up that are just chats, but they're not actually in the sidebar chat.
It's because someone is using the little bubble on the bottom where you have your megaphone and everything. There is your broadcast and there is your little type message where you can also do your emoticons. And so if you type a message in there, like I'm going to do right now, hello T, and I'm sending it, it's going to show up as a bubble and not in the chat.
So it doesn't persist. Got it.
I can't even do it. Hello.
So it's all like,
and I can spell.
Because like a stealth text, because it doesn't stay in the record, right? Because like if you notice, we had conversations that happened 3 weeks ago that's in the chat thread here. But yeah, interesting.
The bubbles are gone. Interesting.
Yeah. But everything is recorded anyway, so.
Fair enough.
Watch what we're typing.
Right, Adam.
All right.
All right.
Well, I'm gonna have to go. But thanks everybody for coming. And again, as always, those meetings are great. It's awesome to interact with the members, but the staff and ourselves on the board are always available. If you have any question, we are easy to reach. So yeah, don't hesitate. If you have question or concern, we'll try to address them the best of our ability. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming today.
All right.